Hello everybody, welcome to Daily News Simplified, an answer to what, why and how of newspaper reading. Today we shall be analyzing the Hindu newspaper dated 20th of May 2019 of the New Delhi edition. The topics to be discussed today has been presented on your screen. Timestamping for the same has been provided in the description box below. Let us begin our today's discussion. Now the first article appears on page number 11. The title of the article is Platforms of Our Own. This article shall be important mainly from the perspective of GS Paper 3, Security, under the subsection Role of Media and Social Networking Sites in the Internal Security Challenges. Further, this article is also important because in UPSC Mains 2017, a rated question on the impact of social media on India's internal security has already been asked. Before analyzing this particular article, let us first look into its background. With the growth of information and communication technology and increase in the penetration of smartphones, India has seen a rapid increase in its digital population. Presently, 35% of India's population have digital footprint. Apart from that, India has also emerged as the second largest internet market across the world. Accordingly, there has been rapid growth of the social media networking sites such as the Facebook, Twitter, WhatsApp, etc. Now these social media networking sites have now emerged as new political battlegrounds during the elections. Now this is evident in the fact that various political personalities and the political parties have increasingly resorted to the usage of social media in order to connect with their people. Now, the usage of social media during the elections has both positive as well as the negative impact on the democratic process. On one hand, the increase in the usage of social media can strengthen democracy. On the other hand, the social media can lead to the democratic recession. Now, the democratic recession here essentially refers to the fact that the governments and the political parties can misuse the social media for their own personal gains, and this can lead to an erosion in the democratic values. Now, with respect to the positive impact of the social media in the elections, the social media can strengthen democracy by helping the political parties as well as the citizens. Now, with respect to political parties, the social media enables them to engage with their voters, understand their problems, and then formulate their political manifesto. In other words, the social media enables the political parties to understand the problems of the people and take suitable actions to address those problems. Now, with respect to how it benefits the citizens, the social media enables the citizens to voice their views, opinions, as well as the dissent against the political personalities and the political parties. And this would in turn strengthen the fundamental right of speech and expression as guaranteed under Article 19 of the Indian Constitution. Further, the social media leads to increase in the transmission of information leading to an informed citizenry in India, and such people can make informed decisions. The social media can also help in the political mobilization wherein people facing same problems can come together and present their problems before the political parties. And lastly, the social media platforms have also emerged as another forum for the grievance redressal, wherein any citizen can simply write a Facebook post or tweet a message to the concerned minister, and normally such grievances are immediately addressed. Now, in spite of the positive role played by the social media in the Indian democracy, the social media can also subvert the democratic process. That is why the social media is also referred to as the double-edged sword with respect to the Indian democracy. In this regard, this article here has highlighted as to how the social media can have an adverse impact on the Indian democracy. Apart from that, it has also highlighted some of the steps taken by the Facebook in order to address these adverse impacts. Hence, as part of this video analysis, let us start understanding these two aspects of the article. Let us first understand the negative impact of the social media in the elections. For any democracy to be effective and vibrant, it has to promote the 3 Ds. Now, the 3 Ds here stand for debate, discussion, and dissent. And in order to facilitate the 3 Ds, two factors are critical. First and foremost, people should be able to express their opinions as well as viewpoints. And the second critical factor is that people should be receptive to the viewpoints of others. So it is only when people become receptive to the viewpoints and opinions of others, it would be able to facilitate debate and dissent. However, what is being said is that with the increase in the usage of social media, people are becoming non-receptive to the viewpoints and opinions of others. Now, this is because the increase in the usage of social media is leading to the hardening of one's beliefs, views, and opinions, wherein people are becoming non receptive to the other's viewpoints. And this can be understood by looking at the algorithms used by the social media platforms such as the Facebook and Twitter. Now, based upon your previous posts and searches, the algorithms used in these social media platforms would suggest who to follow. For example, if a person is politically inclined towards a right-wing political party, under such circumstances, such a person would get a list of suggested persons to be followed, and these people would have the same right-wing ideology as well. So, a person who is having a right wing ideology would continue to follow those people who have the same right wing ideology. So, because of this, the person here would not be able to comprehend the views and opinions of the other political parties. And over a period of time, his right wing ideology would get hardened. Secondly, it is observed that based upon the algorithm, the Facebook and Twitter continue to show only those posts which are consistent with the person's views and opinions, and it does not show those posts which are inconsistent with the person's beliefs and opinions. So, in a nutshell, a person does not get to know the views and opinions of others, and this in turn does not facilitate the debate, discussion, and dissent in a democracy. Now, this particular problem with respect to the adverse impact of social media in the elections was recently highlighted in the Cambridge Analytica case. Now, in this particular case, Facebook had illegally used the data of its users in order to influence their voting behavior. Secondly, since the social media remains unregulated in most of the countries, the social media has been used to propagate the fake news, leading to the internal security challenges across the world. For example, in case of India, fake news has been used as a tool in order to foment the communal disturbances. Apart from that, the social media platforms have also been misused by certain authoritarian governments in order to manufacture the positive public opinion about themselves. And lastly, it can also be stated that the increase in the usage of social media has led to deterioration in the political discussion during the elections. Normally, it is observed that the discussions on the social media are not related to the main issues such as the issues related to the unemployment, prices, gender empowerment, etc. Rather, all these main issues get sidelined and other unimportant issues such as the issues related to religion, caste, etc. gets highlighted. And overall, this leads to a deterioration in the political discussions in the elections. Now, this particular article here has highlighted various steps taken by the Facebook in order to counter the problem of the social media in the elections, wherein it has highlighted that the Facebook has developed artificial intelligence and machine learning tools in order to ensure that there are sufficient amount of checks and balances so as to promote free and fair elections. As part of this artificial intelligence and machine learning tools, inaccurate and abusive Facebook accounts are removed by this particular company. So all those accounts which fail to comply with the rules and regulations laid by the Facebook are immediately removed, and this removal is possible by using the artificial intelligence. So accordingly, the removal of such accounts would check the propagation of the fake news in India. However, the article has raised certain concerns with respect to the artificial intelligence and machine learning tool introduced by the Facebook. The article highlights the fact that such tools give greater powers to social media networks in order to control the content which is displayed on their platforms. So ideally, in a democratic country, the government should be able to decide as to what kind of online content should be displayed. However, what is happening is that presently it is the Facebook which is deciding as to what kind of digital content should be displayed on its platform. And accordingly, the article believes that such powers can be misused by the Facebook in order to suppress dissent. So overall, the article highlights that the AI/ML tools give greater powers to social media networks rather than the governments of the country. And looking at the way the social media has been misused in the election process, it is highlighted that such AI/ML tools can actually be misused by the social media platforms. So these are some of the important aspects which one must know with respect to this particular article. Further, based upon our discussion, a main question for your practice here could be the social media has to emerge as an enabler for the democracy rather than a cause for the democratic recession. Examine. Now you can try writing answer to this particular question based upon our video analysis. With this, let us now take up the next article. The next article appears as a lead article on page number 10. The title of the article is Taking Stock of Islamic State 2.0. This article shall be important from the perspective of GS Paper 3, Security, under the subsection Role of External State and Non-State Actors in Creating Challenges to Internal Security. Apart from that, this article is also important because in UPSC Mains 2015, a rated question on the Islamic State has already been asked. Now, you all must be aware that the Islamic State has lost most of its territory which it had previously occupied in Iraq and Syria. Accordingly, the global community has built up a perception that the Islamic State no longer poses a threat. However, the recent Easter bombings in Sri Lanka has highlighted the fact that the Islamic State even today poses a threat to the global community, and accordingly the Easter bombings in Sri Lanka should serve as a wake-up call for India. In this regard, this lead article here highlights about the growing threat of the Islamic State and what lessons should India learn in order to counter the threat of the Islamic State. The article highlights that even though the Islamic State has lost most of its territory, it still poses a threat to India's internal security because the Islamic State has focused on the usage of digital media in order to radicalize the Muslim youths across the world. So in order to radicalize the Muslim youths, the Islamic State is basically targeting the regional Muslim extremist struggle such as the struggles by Muslims in Rakhine, Chechnya, as well as the struggle of the Indian Muslims with respect to the independence of Kashmir. So the Islamic State is basically tapping into the discontent Muslim youths across the world in order to radicalize them towards its ideology, and for which it is using the power of internet. And over a period of time, the article has highlighted that the Islamic State has built up an online army of supporters across the South Asia, wherein according to the author, countries such as India, Sri Lanka, Maldives, Bangladesh, etc. are facing the growing threat of the Islamic State. Apart from using the internet in order to radicalize the Muslim youths, the article also highlights that the Islamic State still retains its ability to carry out the lone wolf attacks across the world, and this was evident in the Sri Lanka's Easter bombings, where it had established links with the local Muslim extremist organization, the National Tawhid Jamaat, in order to carry out the suicide bombings. So, because of the growing threat perception from the Islamic State, there are certain lessons to be learned for India in order to counter the Islamic State. First and foremost, the article highlights that India needs to learn from the Sri Lanka's failure to counter the Islamic State. Now, for example, the National Tawhid Jamaat, which has been responsible for the Easter bombings in Sri Lanka, was formed in the year 2014. And this particular organization was responsible for the radicalization of the youths in the northeastern part of Sri Lanka. Now, as stated before, the National Tawhid Jamaat established linkages with the Islamic State and subsequently carried out the lone wolf attacks. Now, it is being said that had the Sri Lankan government countered the radicalization of the Muslim youths in the northeastern part, then the Easter bombings would not have occurred. So, accordingly, the lesson to be learned for India is that we need to identify all those organizations which are involved in the radicalization of the youths and accordingly take certain steps in order to counter the radicalization by such organizations. The Sri Lanka Easter bombings revealed that the Islamic State has established linkages with the different groups in India, Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, etc. And accordingly, India needs to investigate these linkages and take suitable actions. Thirdly, when the Islamic State had acquired territory in Iraq and Syria, Most of the youths across the world who had sympathies with Islamic State had migrated to Syria. However, subsequent to the defeat of Islamic State, these youths have returned back to their country. Now, with respect to India, the number of youths who have traveled to Syria and later returned back is quite marginal. Nevertheless, the article highlights that we need to identify and de-radicalize all the Muslim youths who have returned back from Syria. And lastly, as stated before, the Islamic State is presently relying on in order to radicalize the Muslim youths across the world. And accordingly, the lesson to be learned for India in this particular case is that India has to counter this particular radicalization through the internet. So these are some of the important aspects which one must know with respect to this particular article. With this, let us now take up the next article. Now the next article appears on page number 22. The title of the article is Evidence of Water Found on Ultima Thule. This article shall be important from the perspective of prelims under the subsection General Science. Before looking into this particular article, let us first look into its background. In the year 2006, the American Space Agency NASA launched the New Horizons space probe under the New Frontier program. The primary mission of the New Horizons space probe was to conduct a flyby study of Pluto, and the secondary mission of this particular space probe was to study the Kuiper belt objects. It is to be noted that the Kuiper belt is basically the region of the solar system which exists beyond the planet Neptune. And this particular Kuiper belt mainly comprises of the comets, asteroids, etc. Now this particular article here has highlighted that the New Horizon space probe has found evidence of water on Ultima Thule. In this regard, let us understand some basic details related to the Ultima Thule. The Ultima Thule is one of the Kuiper belt object which was discovered for the first time in the year 2014 by the NASA's Hubble Space Telescope. Now an important fact related to Ultima Thule is that it is a contact binary. The contact binary essentially means that it is composed of two bodies which are joined together due to the force of gravitation. So if you look at the Ultima Thule, it is basically comprising of two bodies, that is the Ultima and the other body is Thule, and these two bodies have joined due to the force of gravitation. So since it comprises of two bodies, the Ultima Thule resembles the peanut shaped as shown in this particular diagram. Apart from that, you also need to note that the Ultima Thule is one of the cold classicals object in the Kuiper belt. Now with respect to cold classicals in the solar system, these cold classical objects are mainly found in the Kuiper belt and they have a nearly circular orbit with low inclination to the solar plane. And the reason as to why they are called as cold classicals is because these bodies are extremely cold and they have been in existence since the formation of the universe. So with respect to Ultima Thule, it is an extremely cold body and it has been in existence since the formation of the universe. That is why it is referred to as a cold classical object or the Kuiper belt. Apart from that, the Ultima Thule comprises of hills, craters and depression, wherein the biggest depression on the Ultima Thule is referred to as the Maryland crater. Now with respect to significance of Ultima Thule, as stated before, the Ultima Thule has been in existence since the formation of universe, and more importantly, the Ultima Thule has remained undisturbed ever since. It is precisely because of this particular reason the study of Ultima Thule provides us with insights related to the origin of solar system. So these are some of the important aspects which one must know with respect to this particular article. With this, let us now take up the next article. The next article appears on page number 1. This particular article talks about the publication of exit polls in India. Accordingly, this article shall be important from the perspective of prelims under the subsection Indian Polity and Governance. Now, as highlighted in the title of this particular article, the exit polls in India predict a second term for Prime Minister Modi. Now, keeping the politics aside, with respect to your prelims, one should have an idea as to what exactly is an exit poll, when the exit poll can be published, and what is the difference between an opinion poll and exit poll. Hence, as part of this video analysis, let us understand the various facets related to the opinion poll and the exit poll. The opinion poll is essentially a survey which is carried out in order to understand as to how the people are likely to vote during the upcoming elections. And hence an opinion poll helps us to ascertain the overall electorate mood in the country. Now there are multiple agencies in India which carry out the opinion poll, and all these multiple agencies adopt different sample size and different methodologies. It is precisely because of this reason there is large scale variation with respect to the results of the opinion poll. On the other hand, when it comes to the exit poll is a survey which is carried out on the polling day when the voter walks out after casting his vote. So one basic difference between the opinion poll and the exit poll here is that the opinion poll is a pre-poll survey while the exit poll is a post-poll survey. Secondly, the opinion poll seeks to understand as to how the people are likely to vote. On the other hand, the exit poll seeks to understand as to how the people have actually voted during the elections. Now, with respect to the publication of opinion and exit polls, the Election Commission of India has come out with detailed guidelines. Under these guidelines, the Election Commission has put a prohibition on the publication of opinion and exit polls during a certain period of time. Now, for example, during the single phase elections, both opinion as well as exit polls cannot be published during the 48 hours before the closing of poll. And in case of multi-phase elections, both the opinion and exit polls cannot be published before the 48 hours for the closing of polls in the first phase until the time the polling is concluded in all the phases. Now, for example, if the first phase polling is ending on June 3rd, 2019 and the last phase polling is ending on June 30, 2019, then both the opinion and exit polls cannot be published between June 1st, 2019 to June 30th, 2019. This is because if you look at the difference of hours between June 1st and June 3, 2019, this refers to 48 hours before the end of polling in the first phase. Now you all must be aware, in case of India, the polling has been concluded in all the phases, and accordingly various agencies have now come out with the exit polls. So these are some of the important aspects which one must know with respect to the opinion and exit poll. With this, let us now take up the next article. Now the next article appears on page number 8. The title of the article is Coming Soon, an All-Seeing Radar Imaging Satellite. This article shall be important mainly from the perspective of prelims under the subsection General Science and Technology. Now this particular article here highlights that the Indian Space Agency ISRO is set to launch the RISAT-2B through the PSLV C-46, and this is going to be the 48th mission for the PSLV C-46. Now with respect to the RISAT series, the RISAT here basically stands for the Radar Imaging Earth Observation Satellites, and these satellites are used for applications such as the strategic surveillance, that is the surveillance of border areas, counter-terrorism operations, the disaster management operations, the operations related to the agricultural planning such as the forecast of the crop production as well as the forest surveys. Now with respect to the previous launches of the RISAT series satellites, the first series of RISAT satellite was launched in the year 2009, and this satellite was known as RISAT-2. It is to be noted that the RISAT-2 was launched post the Mumbai terror attacks, and this particular satellite is presently used for the border surveillance as well as the counter-terror operations. The second satellite in the RISAT series to be launched was the RISAT-1, which was launched in the year 2012. And one specific feature related to RISAT-1 is that it was India's first indigenously developed microwave satellite, and it was used for operations such as the disaster management, agricultural planning, forest surveys, etc. Now with respect to the present satellite which is to be launched, that is the RISAT-2B, it is being said that the RISAT-2B has clear advantages over the regular remote sensing satellite. This is because if you look at the functioning of the regular remote sensing satellite, these satellites basically use the light in order to capture the images on the earth. And because of this particular reason, the regular remote sensing satellites fail to provide the clear images when there is dense cloud cover or during the night time. On the other hand, the RISAT-2B, unlike the regular remote sensing satellite, use a special type of radar which is known as the synthetic aperture radar. Now by using this special type of radar, the RISAT-2B would be able to provide the clear images even during the dense cloud cover as well as during the night time. It is because of this specific feature, the RISAT-2B would find a special application in the field of security such as the border management. Now this particular RISAT-2B is set to be launched on May 22nd from Sriharikota. So since this particular satellite is yet to be launched, this particular article essentially becomes a news in transition. As and when this particular satellite is launched, we shall discuss more details related to the RISAT-2B. So these are some of the important aspects which one must know with respect to this particular article. With this, let us now take up the next article. Now the next article appears on page number 15. The title of the article is Downtrend. Now this particular article here basically highlights that the Indian economy as such is facing an economic slowdown. And the main reason as to why the Indian economy is facing slowdown has been attributed to the shrinking consumption expenditure in India. Now this particular aspect related to the economic slowdown in India as well as the reasons for the economic slowdown has been comprehensively been covered in our DNS dated 15th of May 2019. So in order to understand this particular article, I suggest you to go to this particular DNS dated 15th of May 2019. Based upon our video discussion, these 4 questions shall be a prelims question for the practice. Please pause this video and try to find answers to these 4 questions. We shall be discussing the answer after 5 seconds. Now coming to the first question, the question here is, which among the following factors contributes the highest to the GDP in India? And as we have discussed in the DNS dated 15th of May 2019, the answer to this particular question is consumption expenditure, which contributes around 60% to India's GDP. Now coming to the second question, the question here is, consider the following statements related to the opinion and exit polls in India. The first statement here is, the publication of opinion poll results is completely prohibited in India. Now this particular statement, as we have discussed here, is wrong. The second statement reads as, in a multi-phase elections, the exit poll results can be published after the end of polling in the first phase. Now even this particular statement here is wrong. This is because the exit poll results cannot be published until the end of polling in the last phase of elections. And accordingly, the answer to this particular question is D. That is neither 1 nor 2. Now coming to the third question, the question here is, consider the following statements related to the Kuiper belt. The first statement here is, this belt lies in the solar system beyond the orbit of Pluto. Now this particular option here is wrong. This is because the Kuiper belt lies beyond the orbit of Neptune. On the other hand, as we have discussed, both statement number 2 as well as statement number 3 here are correct. And accordingly, the answer to this particular question is C. That is 2 and 3 only. Now coming to the fourth question, the question here is, consider the following statements related to the RISAT-2B satellite. The first statement here is, it is a radar imaging satellite which uses the advanced synthetic aperture radar. As we have discussed, this statement here is correct. The second statement reads as, unlike the normal imaging satellite, the RISAT-2B would be able to provide clear images even during the dense cloud cover. So even this statement here, as we have discussed, is correct. So the correct answer to this particular question is C. That is both 1 and 2. With this, we have come to end of today's discussion. Now let us look at the question for the day.